everyone. My name is Melissa. I am the dietitian and personal trainer at Health Aware. Welcome to another one of our virtual plant-based cooking classes. I'm excited to be here with you today. I have two recipes we're going to make, which I am very excited about both of them. So while some people are joining live right now, I'm going to upload the recipes in the comments of this video really quickly. So give me just a moment. And then if you didn't get my email, you'll be able to access the recipes right here in the video. So let me take care of that. And then as soon as I'm done with this, then we will get started. So each recipe will be in a separate comment in this video. There's our first one I've just posted, and now here is the second one. Make sure I got them. Perfect. Okay. There we go. Great. So I wish I had a better way to do that. But that's the only way I can think of to do it, to get the recipes live as we're doing this, to just post them from my computer while we're here live. Okay, I think it's just my comments there. So, as I said, we have two recipes today that we're doing. I'm really excited about both of these. Neither of these recipes use the stove or the oven, so they're really good for warmer weather. Right now, it's not super warm outside here in Ventura, but last week when I was preparing for all this, it was really warm here in Ventura. So we are ready for more warm weather with these recipes. So let's get started. Our first recipe today that we're doing is our vegan chickpea salad sandwich spread. That's a mouthful. So we're going to make the spread here. I've got all of our ingredients, really simple. Both of these recipes don't have a long list of ingredients, decently simple. So what we're going to do first, I've got our 4 cups of our cooked chickpeas. Garbanzo beans is another name for them. So these are just canned. It takes about 3 cans of the regular size cans of chickpeas for this recipe. You actually probably will have a tiny amount left over, like a half cup-ish, okay? So I've got 4 cups in here. I just got all of them rinsed off and drained. I used a colander to do that. And I'm going to remove actually 1 cup because this will be actually for the dressing part. So in our recipe, it says in the bowl to put 3 cups of the chickpeas, okay? So that's what we have here. We're going to mash these with a fork, which maybe in hindsight, maybe I should have already started mashing these ahead of time. But we're going to mash them here now. I also wanted to talk about the different types of chickpeas or garbanzo beans we have out there. I prefer to buy low sodium versions of beans of any kind. And I encourage all of my patients and clients to do that as well. We really don't need the extra sodium that a lot of the regular cans of beans have, even if we rinse off. I still rinse and drain beans that are from the low sodium cans. You don't need all that extra sodium, especially if you're trying to watch your blood pressure. Extra salt can hide in a lot of foods, and we don't need that extra here. I think there might be even no sodium added beans. I typically buy the Trader Joe's brand. The organic version of the beans are actually decently low in sodium. So trying to aim below 140 milligrams per serving is a good guide for sort of a low sodium version of something. Unless the serving size is really tiny, but usually for beans it's a half a cup. I'm almost done mashing these up. I don't know if you just heard that, but my cat meowed from behind the door. Molly said something. Yes, Trader Joe's low sodium. Yes, yeah. So they don't even actually, I don't think they even say low sodium on the can. But when you read the back of the label, I'll show you one. When you read the back of the label, so this is the brand, the version, see if I can get it out of the glare. This is the version, there we go, the version I buy of the Garbanzo beans is what they're called. And this in half a cup has 130 milligrams per serving, for the half cup serving. But nowhere on here does it actually say that they're low sodium. On the back, in teeny tiny letters, it actually does say low sodium, but they don't advertise it on the front. So you just have to read the label on the back, which I encourage you to do with most of your products. Okay, so I've got, whoops, flinging them everywhere. You want to mash these up, not so that it's completely all smashed. We want a little bit of texture left. So a few whole or partially whole beans are fine. I will show you. Can you see through the glass? I think you can see through the glass, but so partially mashed up, not all the way mashed up, okay? So that's our 3 cups right there. The next thing we are going to do is add in some more of the ingredients to this part. So we're adding in the celery, which I've already pre-diced. You're welcome. You don't have to watch me dice a bunch of celery. It took me a couple minutes. So this, I'm trying to show you the size. You can dice it however size you want, but I tried to do it, you can't even see that. Very small, not bigger than the chickpeas. I would say we want it to be smaller than the chickpeas are, okay? Oops. As uniform as you can. So we add 1 cup of the celery, the diced celery, into our mashed chickpeas. And then next we also do some dill. So I've got fresh dill. I've already diced it up just a little bit. It doesn't have to be completely mashed up like the dried dill would be. Just kind of in little pieces. Okay? So this is a tablespoon-ish. It might be a little bit more. I didn't want to waste any of it. So, so there's 1 tablespoon-ish of that one. And then the next thing we're adding in is the salt and the smoked paprika. If you're trying to stay a little bit lower sodium, you could add in less salt here if you wanted. We do 1/2 teaspoon of that. So I've got my 1/2 teaspoon, just regular iodized salt. Can you hear that banging? It's my cats at the door. I locked them out, I tricked them. It wasn't very nice of me. All right, next we're doing paprika, smoked paprika. I get this from Trader Joe's as well. If you don't have, excuse me, if you don't have smoked paprika, you can use regular paprika. It's not that big of a deal, okay? We're using smoked, and we're doing 1/4 teaspoon into here. Okay, and then we're just gonna give this a gentle toss to kind of get the salt, the paprika mixed around, as well as the celery and dill. So if you were going to use dried dill for this recipe, it would be less than the full tablespoon of the fresh that we're using, okay? So keep that in mind. I don't know the exact conversion, but I want to say it's probably around 1 teaspoon of the dried that you would use rather than a full tablespoon, but you will need to test that one out. So there we go, all mixed up. This is what it looks like. Okay. Now next, we are going to make the liquid part of this recipe that makes it creamy and more like a sandwich spread filling. So let me grab, it's a little bit strange, but we are using condiments, ketchup, mustard, and vegan mayo for this one. It makes it really, really easy. Let me grab those from our fridge. my fridge, not our fridge, my fridge. I tried to keep them cold as long as I could before we used them. So just regular old ketchup is what I have. It's from Trader Joe's. Regular yellow mustard, also from Trader Joe's. You could probably use Dijon if you really wanted to make it a little bit more interesting. Just regular yellow mayo for this one is what I have. And then the vegan mayo that I typically use for recipes or for any other eating at home. See, there we go. Vegenaise. Some people pronounce it Vegenaise, but I pronounce it Vegenaise. This product has been around for years. This is what I typically use as a mayonnaise substitute. Regular mayo does contain egg, so it's technically not plant-based. This does not contain egg, of course. This is in your notes. You'll see that where you can find this is at a lot of stores these days. I know that Vons usually sells it. Sprouts, Whole Foods, Lawson's, Target even. Trader Joe's is the one place that does not sell this, okay? So these are the 3 things we are going to use, as well as our reserved 1 cup of garbanzo beans or chickpeas. I grew up calling it garbanzo beans, but you can call them chickpeas too if you want. That's what my recipe says. Let me grab a spoon. So we're doing, spoon, there we go. We are doing a 1/4 cup of the vegan mayonnaise. So I'll show you actually what it looks like too. So it looks just like regular mayonnaise, and actually it tastes pretty good. And there's actually lots of versions of it. So this is just the original. The blue one is the original. I believe they still have a low-fat version that's in a yellow container. They have one that's made with, I think, grapeseed oil. It's like a purple container. They have a soy-free version that's in a light green container. So your choice on that. Here we have our 1/4 cup. Move that to the front. So we're putting in just a 1/4 cup, and I'm using just a teeny tiny little blender over here. The NutriBullet is what I'm using. If you want to use your regular mixer, blender, regular blender, that's fine. Or if you want to use one of those immersion blenders, that's fine too. It doesn't really matter. I just didn't want to get the entire blender out and get the whole thing dirty. This one is fine enough for our purposes. So let me put that, I'll put this up closer so you can see it. There we go. Okay, so we've got those 2 in there, and then we're going to add in 2 tablespoons each of ketchup and mustard. So when you're buying ketchup, again, these days they actually do have some lower sugar versions of ketchup, which I always recommend. I always recommend. The Trader Joe's, oh, why am I putting it in there? No one stopped me. Put it in there. Trader Joe's has a decently low sugar version. It's about 4 grams of sugar per serving. There's that. I've got some extra ketchup in our mixture. I wasn't looking where I was putting the ketchup. And then we're doing the mustard in as well, 2 full tablespoons. Again, just regular yellow mustard. So because we're using some of these less fresh ingredients, I would say, like the ketchup and the mustard, I really like having the fresh elements like the celery and the fresh dill in the mixture, just for something a little bit more fresh, vibrant. So we've got everything. Try not to spill that. Got everything in our little container. We'll add the blade. This might be a little bit loud. Hopefully it's not too loud in your video, so just a heads up. And I'm going to turn this on. You can mute the volume if you need to, okay? Blend it so it's it's all fully creamy for the most part. And it actually starts looking kind of like hummus, which is almost what we're kind of creating here, except for hummus usually doesn't have ketchup and mustard in it. Okie doke. Good enough. So, it is a much more creamy consistency. Okay. So I'm sure you all know, but yes, hummus is made primarily with chickpeas, with garbanzo beans. So essentially we're creating sort of a pseudo hummus that we are using as the main binding part of this recipe. I'm trying to get all of it out of the blades, there we go. So I'm going to add all of this in to our mixture. And that is pretty much the entire recipe. It is very, very simple. This actually, it reminds me of a recipe that my dad used to make when we were kids. It was made with, it was chicken salad spread. And it was made with the vegetarian meat alternative chicken with pretty similar other ingredients in here. So this reminds me of that, except for this is a little bit healthier because it has chickpeas and not the meat alternative. So it's a little bit nostalgic of a recipe for me. Okay, just a quick little mix. This will be what I'm having for lunch today. And this is what we have. Let me get a little bit closer. This is what we are having here with our mixed up ingredients. So put this in the fridge, any leftovers you have with the cover. It saves well for several days. I have a few slices of bread. There are many ways to serve this. My husband's favorite way is on bread, like a sandwich. You can also add other things into this, lettuce, tomato, whatever other types of veggies you may like in a sandwich. Or you can also use it kind of as a dip for vegetables. That's my favorite way to eat it actually right now, is using some of the fresh veggies. So there we have the final result. And this, again, yes, will be my lunch today. So let me set this one off to our side. Any questions about this recipe, feel free please to type them in the comments while I clean up this recipe, and then we'll move on to the next. But please let me know if you have any questions. This one's a decently straightforward recipe. I'm also just going to throw these ingredients back into the refrigerator. And grabbing the next ingredient that we need. Okay, so the next recipe that we're going to be making is the vegan Rocky Road nice cream. So nice cream is the name that we use when we use bananas, like nanas, as the base. So it's not really ice cream, it is nice cream. One of my favorite recipes to make. I've been making this for years. There's many variations that you can do on this. You don't even have to add any flavoring into it if you really don't want to. Today, as you can see in the recipe, we're making a Rocky Road version. So for this one, you need a food processor. It probably would work in a blender. I've never actually tried it, but I've had someone tell me they've done it in a blender. So if you don't have a food processor, you could certainly try that. If you don't have a food processor, I highly recommend you get a food processor. It's one of my favorite kitchen appliances. So I use it all the time. I've probably had this one for like 10 years. Yeah. Get all of our ingredients. Now for this recipe, make some space. So again, another decently easy recipe to make. A pretty short ingredient list, which is the kind of recipe I always like. And I'll explain these ones here in just a moment. All right, so we're starting out with the bananas. In the food processor, we add the bananas. It's going to depend on the size of banana that you have. It takes 4 to 5 of the medium large-ish size bananas. By weight, it's about 500 grams. I talked, I think, in our last video about a food scale. Those are excellent as well. If you don't have one of those, I highly suggest getting one. Amazon, Target, lots of places sell them these days. So it's about 500 grams of banana. These ones I peeled, trying to get an example, I peeled and broke up into pieces and froze in this bag yesterday around 7 o'clock, so like 16 hours ago. And I break them into little pieces, little tiny chunks. Just with my hands, just kind of peel off small pieces. It makes it much easier to blend them when they're in here. So this is a large chunk. I'm gonna just break that one up just a tiny bit. There we go. So this is going to be probably a lot more loud than the previous blender was. So this takes a couple minutes scraping down the sides to get it to the consistency that we want. So I'll show you the process. There we go. All the bananas in here, this is the first thing that we're doing. I've got my little spatula so that we can scrape the sides. So sound off if it gets too loud, okay? Banana pieces are broken up now, the bigger pieces, and they're broken down into kind of, I think you can see through that, into little like pebbles, I guess I would say. I don't know if any of you remember years ago, there was I think maybe it's still a thing, I don't know, but Dippin' Dots. If you've ever had Dippin' Dots, gone to like a professional sporting event, and they had the Dippin' Dots booth, yeah. That's kind of what this reminds me of, that same consistency, same size. So, oops, I meant to scrape down. So I'm scraping down just a little bit to get some of the banana Dippin' Dots a little bit lower down towards the blade. And then I'm going to resume blending this. There we go. Here we go. Scrape down the sides again. As you continue to process it, parts of this will start to warm up, parts of the banana will start to warm up and get a little bit more liquidy, I guess I would say. They'll melt a little bit, and that helps to blend it into the creamy consistency that we're going for. It still pretty much looks like Dippin' Dots right now, so I'm not going to bother showing you. But it'll start to, at the bottom, it'll start to turn into more of a creamy texture. And I just keep pushing down the Dippin' Dots. Keep pushing it down through here very carefully to incorporate all of it. So I say very carefully because I have lost the end of a few spatulas. Back when I first started making this, I definitely lost some spatulas to the machine, so don't do that. So take caution. I'm gonna start blending again. We're done now. Ooh, there we go. Here is our finished product. Okay, stays exactly where it is. There you go. So very creamy. I'll try to scoop some out for you. Okay, very much like a soft serve type of consistency. So now that we've got that, I'm not used to doing my food processor backwards. I keep having to figure it out. So scrape the sides all down, and then we're going to add in a few more of our ingredients into the food processor. So we are doing cocoa powder. So I've got here unsweetened cocoa powder. You can buy it at all kinds of stores these days. This is from Trader Joe's. Can you tell that that's a store I shop at a lot? That's where I do my main shopping. We're doing 3 tablespoons of the cocoa powder. Ish. Doesn't have to be exact. There's 3 of that. And then we're doing just 1 tablespoon of the agave nectar. You could use maple syrup if you wanted to as well. I do find that it is somewhat necessary to add just the 1 tablespoon of the sweetener in. Cocoa powder is very bitter. Cocoa powder is very bitter if you just eat it by itself. The bananas are very sweet, but with the cocoa powder in there, it makes it a little bit too bitter, I think, without just the tiniest bit of sweetener in there. So hand over the cover because the cocoa powder will kind of cloud up when you turn this on. So here we go, I'm gonna blend it just for a few more seconds. Scrape down the sides one more time to get all of the cocoa powder incorporated. Just give it a couple more seconds. There we go. So we have our nice cream base. If you noticed, I was holding on pretty firmly to this when we were blending the bananas. It's a little bit of a tough ingredient to blend, to process in one of these, so make sure you have a good grip on your food processor while it breaks up the larger chunks of bananas, okay? Disclaimer. Let me actually get that out of the way. And that. And we'll get our ingredients out. If you really wanted to, for the next part, you could just leave it in your food processor, but I find it much easier to transfer into a different container for this mixing part. So we're going to transfer all of this into a bowl. Or if you wanted to transfer it into whatever container you're freezing it in, that's fine too. I just kind of like having the bowl just so I can be a little messier in it. Get all of this. Sometimes it gets around the blade, inside the blade. Oh, let me show you actually what it looks like. So there it is now, chocolatey. You could add more cocoa powder if you really wanted to make it more and more chocolatey. Whatever you like. Try not to waste any of this because it's so delicious. Okay. Final scoop. There we go. Don't tell anyone. Yeah. So good. Okay. Next, now in class I would normally lick my fingers, but because I'm at home and making this only for myself, I get to do that. Shh. We're going to next add our add-in ingredients to make it like Rocky Road. So we've got unsalted, dry toasted slivered almonds. These are sold at Trader Joe's. There we go. These are sold at Trader Joe's. I'm sure they're sold at other stores as well. You could use the shaved or the, is that what they're called? Sliced, thank you. Sliced almonds, you could use those as well. I've made it with both. My fingers are really sticky. Hold on a second. There we go. My finger's really sticky now, it's touching everything. So, it doesn't really matter if you use slivered or sliced. Just make sure that they're toasted. They have a better flavor when they're toasted versus just raw. I also recommend getting unsalted. We don't need extra sodium in this. It really does not need that extra salt. You could also make them yourself, which I've done as well. I've got the directions for that in the notes of our recipe if you really wanted to go the more domestic route and make them yourself. So I'm doing a ½ cup of these. I'll show you the size. Okay, just the slivered almonds. ½ cup into our bowl. And then my favorite ingredient of this is actually the vegan marshmallows. I love marshmallows. So these, they don't say vegan anywhere on them, I don't think. No, they just say marshmallows. So these are from Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's now, their marshmallows, these ones, or sometimes I think they have the mini marshmallows. These are the large marshmallows. They are vegan, they are plant-based. They don't contain any animal products. So that is where I get them usually. You can also get a brand called Dandy's brand. Those are sold at places like Whole Foods and Sprouts, possibly Lassen's as well. They don't sell those at places like Target or Vaughn's as far as I've found, but these ones at Trader Joe's are good enough. I have found they're great. Okay, just regular old marshmallow. They actually also work well for roasting over a fire, like if you're out camping, making s'mores. They do work really well for that too. I did that a couple weekends ago. So that's what I have here. I wasn't able to find mini marshmallows for this recipe, but I did find, of course, the regular size marshmallows. So I cut them up into 8 pieces, each marshmallow cut in half, and then 4 pieces from there. So they're a little bit sticky. I put them out on here just to keep them all separated because they are kind of sticky. This is about the size that we're going for. Okay, oops, about mini marshmallow size. And we're adding those as well into our nice cream. They are a little bit sticky. But when you eat the ice cream, this is my favorite part. I love the marshmallows. So stir everything together, break apart the marshmallows. If you're using the chopped up large ones like I am, they kind of stick together in clumps. So break those up as best as you can. Make sure everything is fully incorporated. You could just eat this Rocky Road ice cream as it is. It is more like a soft serve consistency right now, which is delicious in this format too. So So this is what it looks like. Very much like soft serve, like nice and creamy. Okay. You could eat it just like this, or transfer it to a container. I use glass Pyrex usually when I do this. I've also used a like a metal loaf tin. I think I have that in the instructions. I've used a metal loaf tin and just covered it with plastic wrap. That works fine too. Transfer this to whatever container you are using. Just do make sure that it does have a cover of some form to prevent the freezer burn and the crystals from forming on it. Okay, add the lid. I'm gonna pop this into the freezer and bring back a fully frozen version to show you what that one's like. I made this guy last night, so it is fully frozen. You can wait, depending on the shallow or deepness of your container, probably about 4 hours. The container that we just did may take a little bit longer than that to fully freeze the inside. But this one's been in here for about 16 hours, so fully frozen. And that is what it looks like in the container. It is very, very cold. And it does get significantly more like ice cream consistency to use like an ice cream scoop to serve it. Let me get one more good scoop for you. So here we have our Rocky Road Nice Cream. And I did a good job of breaking up all the marshmallows in this one because they're nice and dispersed. And like I said, it's my favorite part. So good. But you know, I haven't taken bites of any of the food except for in this class. I mean, I guess there's a reason, because you don't just want to sit here and watch me chew. So here's our final recipe results for the day. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. Let me know if you have any more questions in the comments, either now or if you're watching at a recorded version. I'm happy to answer any of them. I'll have the ability to check. Sima, that is awesome. Thank you. You're welcome, Molly. Let's see, is that another question? Great. Choices. Yes, I hope you all do make these recipes. Please let me know if you do. You can email me or comment on here. I would love to know about it. If there's no more questions, then I will say happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.